It is rightly said by Jimmy Johnson: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra. With this beautiful thought, a very good morning to all my dear students. I hope that you all are in good health. This is Shreya Jadhav, and I welcome you all to my e learning channel. Today, we are going to learn English, Grade 9, Chapter 3, The Little Girl, written by Catherine Mansfield. So, before starting up with the reading and explanation of the chapter, let us know something about the author. Kathleen Mansfield Murray, born on 14th October 1888, died on 9th January 1923. Catherine Mansfield was a prominent New Zealand modernist short story writer and poet who was born and brought up in a colonial New Zealand and wrote under a pen name of Catherine Mansfield. Settling in England, she was diagnosed with tuberculosis in 1917. The disease claimed her life at the age of 34. So now, let us go through the introduction for answers. Dear students, whenever you write down your question answer or whenever you are appearing for exams and writing down question answers, always remember to start your answer with introduction. This makes your answer more presentable. Prose. Prose name: The Little Girl. Author's name: Catherine Mansfield. Genre: short story. Summary: this story is about a little girl whose feelings for her father change from fear to understanding. Will probably find an echo in every home. So now let us begin the theme of the story. We'll go through a short summary of the chapter and then we shall go through the reading and explanation of the chapter. So let us begin. Theme of the story: children have natural attachment with their parents. They always desire to receive their love and affection. The rude behavior of parents only develops a deep sense of separation among the children. However, even if our parents are rude, they still have one desire. They want to make us successful. They work hard to make their children happy. So now let us go through the summary of the chapter. Over here, Kezia, who is the main character of this short story. And this short story is based on a young girl life of Catherine Mansfield. Kezia is a little girl and the main character of this story. Her father is a very successful businessman, but for the little girl, he is the figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to the job, he gives a casual kiss to the little girl and she responds with "Goodbye, father." In the evening, when father gets back from the job, the girl helps him remove his boots. Her mother tells her that it is her reward for being a good girl. Kezia stutters also, but only when she speaks to her father. One afternoon, a crisis occurs in the family. Her father is set to give a speech to the local port authority. It was very important document, but his speech was missing. It is found nowhere in the house. Surprisingly, Kezia has taken the paper and torn them into small pieces to stuff the pin cushion. It was a present made by the little girl for her father. Her father's birthday was approaching. Now, here we have the MacDonald family who lives next door to the house of Kezia. She happens to see the gentle, loving father plays with his children. She also finds that the children have no fear of their father. Hence, she realizes that all fathers are not the same. Suddenly, Kezia's mother becomes ill and her grandmother goes to the hospital. She is alone at home under the care of Elise, who is a cook. But a fear grows in her when Elise put her to bed. She tells her about the nightmare which had visited her sometimes. Now, what was the nightmare? The nightmare visits again. She fears and starts screaming. Her father hears her scream and comes near her. He takes her into his bed in his arms. Happily still, she creeps close to him and lays. Hence, she realizes that her father has a big heart. So, this is all about the theme of the story and a short summary for the same. Now, we shall begin with the reading and explanation of the chapter. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to work, he came into her room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with "Goodbye, father." And oh, there was a glad sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. In the evening, when he came home, she stood near the staircase and heard his loud voice in the hall. "Bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the paper come yet? Mother, go and see if my paper's out there. And bring me my sleepers." So, over here in the first paragraph, it has been said that there is a little girl whose name is Kezia, and she has something to be feared and something which she could avoid. Every morning, before his father used to go for work, he would come into her room and would give her a casual kiss, in which, responding, she would say, "Goodbye, father." And after saying that, when she used to listen to those noise getting fainter and fainter down the long road, she had a great sense of relief because she was really very scared of her father. And when in the evening his father used to return back, she used to stand near the staircase and would listen to his loud voice called up in the hall. He would be saying that bring the tea into the drawing room, and he would be asking whether the paper was has arrived or not. And moreover to that, he would say that the father wanted his sleepers. Kezia, mother would call to her, "If you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots." Slowly, the girl would slip down the stairs, more slowly still across the hall, and push open the drawing room door. By that time, he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to little girl. "Well, Kezia, hurry up, pull off these boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl today?" I don't know, father. So over here, the mother would call Kezia down and she would tell her that if she was a good girl, then she was supposed to help her father in removing the boots. And moreover to that, she would just slip down really very slowly from the staircases, and then she would come across the hall. By that time, the father, wearing his spectacle, would look at him with such a terrifying eyes and a terrifying eyesight that the little girl might be really very threatened and frightened. And his father would ask that, have you been a good girl today? And then she would say that she is not knowing about it, father. You don't know. If you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. She never stuttered with other people, had quite given it up, but only with his father, because then she was trying so hard to say the words properly. What's the matter? What are you looking so vexed about? Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide. Here, Kezia, carry my teacup back to the table carefully. He was so big, his hands and his neck, especially his mouth when he yawned. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. So, what happened? Father told that what is the reason that she was stammering a lot. And his father told that if she would continue the same thing, then she was supposed to be taken to the doctor. And mother told that why do you behave in this mannerism, because with other people she never used to stammer at all. She would say everything very fluently, but with his father she was much more conscious. Why? Because Kezia thought that his father was really very big for, and it seemed like a monster. He was having big hands and neck and especially a big mouth when he used to yawn. And Kezia thought that his father was a big giant. On Sunday afternoons, grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with his father and mother. But the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. Now, what happened? One fine Sunday afternoon, the grandmother is sending Kezia to the drawing room, and the grandmother is insisting that Kezia should have a really nice talk with both the parents. But Kezia always used to find that her mother was reading down something and the father was stretched out, means he was no lying down on the sofa, and he was having his handkerchief on his face, and his feet was one of the best cushions, and he was sleeping very soundly and he was snoring. You can see over here you have the image of the living room, how on the sofa the father is lying down with the handkerchief on his face, and the mother sitting on one of the side sofas and reading down some books, and Kezia standing near the staircase and she is looking at the whole scenario. She sat on a stool, gravely watched him until he woke and stretched, and asked the time, then looked at her. Don't stare so, Kezia. You look like a little brown owl. One day, when she was kept indoors with a cold, her grandmother told her that father's birthday was next week and suggested she should make him a pincushion for a gift out of beautiful piece of yellow silk. So now eventually what happened? The mother used to tell her that don't look, no, constantly don't stare, because when she was constantly staring, she used to look like a little brown owl. One day she was kept inside because she was suffering from cold, and at that time duration the grandmother told her that her father's birthday was approaching the next week, and the grandmother suggested that she should be making a pin cushion for a gift from a beautiful piece of yellow silk. Laboriously, with a double cotton, the little girl stitched three sides. But what to fill it with? That was the question. The grandmother was out in the garden, and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. On the bed table, she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces, and stuffed her case, then sewed up the fourth side. That night there was a hue and cry in the house. Father's great speech for the Port Authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants were questioned. Finally, mother came into Kezia's room. Kezia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on a table in our room. So, what happened? The girl followed the advice which was given by the grandmother, and she took a fine cloth. She stitched it from all the three sides, and the fourth side was kept open. But now she was wondering what to put inside. Mother was not available, and moreover to that, the grandmother was busy with the garden work. And when she went into her parents' room, she saw that there was pile of paper put over there. And what happened? She took the paper and she tore it into little pieces. She stuffed everything inside, and then she sewed up the fourth side. That particular night, there was anger and protest in the house because those pile of paper were father's great speech which he was supposed to deliver for the Port Authority. Rooms were searched out, servants were questioned about the same, and finally the mother went into Kezia's room and she asked that she didn't knew where the papers were which were lying down in their room. Oh yes, she said, I tore them up for my surprise. What? Screamed mother. Come straight down to the dining room this instant. And she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro, hands behind his back. Well, he said sharply. Mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. Did you do that? No, she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damned thing. See that the child's put to the bed this instant. Now, what happened? She surprisingly told her mother that yes, I have told those papers because she was preparing a surprise for her father. And mother screamed in exclamation, and she told that she should immediately come downstairs in the dining room, and she was dragged down in front of her father, who was really very angry. And he said, he tried to ask her what eventually happened, and mother explained the whole situation. He stopped over there and stared at the little child, the little girl Kezia, and he asked that was he or was she really behind this thing? She whispered no, and then mother went up and fetched down that thing, and the child was put to the bed. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room, watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. Then father came into the room with a ruler in his hands. I'm going to beat you for this, he said. Oh, no, no, she screamed, hiding under the bed clothes. He pulled them aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. But it was your birthday. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms. So, now what happened? She was really crying that night and she was drawing some sad patterns on the floor. Father entered into her room with a ruler in his hand and he told that he was going to beat her for this thing. The girl told that please don't do this and she hid herself in the bed clothes. But he pulled them aside and warned her to sit up and he told that she was supposed to hold her hands out. He also said that she was supposed to be taught once and for all that she was not supposed to touch the thing which does not belong to her. She tried to explain it to her that to him eventually that it was for his birthday that she was preparing. But father didn't listen to any of the thing and he just slammed down the ruler on her little pink palms. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. What did God make fathers for? She sobbed. Here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose, go to sleep, pet. You will forget all about it in the morning. I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. But the child never forget. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back and a red color flew into her cheeks. So, what happened? After certain hours, grandmother wrapped her in a shawl and took her to the rocking chair. And she was sobbing, means she was crying, and she asked that for what God has made no fathers. And grandmother gave her a clean hanky and she told that you should blow your nose. And she also advised to go to sleep. And she also told somehow that she would be forgetting everything the next day in the morning. But somehow the child never forget those things. And father was really very upset to listen to all these sort of things that particular night. Now, next time, whenever she came in front of his father, her cheeks were always red in color and she put both her hands behind. The MacDonald lived next door. They had 5 children. Looking through a gap into the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. The father, with the baby Mio on his shoulders, 2 little girls hanging to his coat pockets, ran around and around the flower boats, shaking with laughter. Once she saw the boys turn the hose on him, and he tried to catch them laughing all the time. Then it was she decided there were different sorts of fathers. Suddenly, one day, mother became ill, and she and grandmother went to hospital. Now, eventually, what happened? The next day, they had a neighbor called MacDonald, and they had 5 children. And this little girl, Kezia, was looking through the gap into the fence, and all of them were playing a game. And father was holding a small baby Mio on his shoulder, and they all were playing, and they were so much happy. And while looking at that thing, she realized that there were different sort of fathers and her father was really miserable to her. One fine day, what happened? Mother fell ill, and the grandmother took her, and both of them went to the hospital. The little girl was left alone in the house with Elise, the cook. That was all right in the daytime. But while Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. What will I do if I have a nightmare? She asked. I often have nightmares, and then Granny takes me into her bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks, and don't you scream and wake up your pa. So what happened? One fine day the grandmother and mother went to the hospital. For the whole day she was alone in the home along with the cook Alice, and when she came to put her into bed she was afraid. And she told that if I'm having nightmare then what am I supposed to do? Usually, grandmother used to take her in her bed, but today, on that particular day, the grandmother was also not available. So Alice told that please go to sleep, child, and do not scream because this will wake up his father. But the same old nightmare came. The butcher with a knife and a rope, who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile. While she could not move, could only stand still, crying out, Grandma, Grandma. She woke shivering to see father beside her, a candle in his hand. What's the matter? He said. So, what happened? She got that same nightmare again, and there was a butcher who was with his knife and a rope and who came nearer to her, and the girl was unable to move. But she only stood still over there and she started crying out. She called for grandmother and she woke up. And there she found that her father was standing over there with a candle in his hand. And he asked what the matter was. Oh, a butcher, a knife, I want Granny. He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arms, carrying her along the passage to the big bedroom. A newspaper was on the bed. He put away the paper and then carefully tucked up the child. He lay down beside her, half asleep, still the butcher's smile all about her, it seemed. She crept close to him, snuggled her head under his arm, held tightly to his shirt. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. Here, rub your feet against your legs and get them warm, said father. Tried out. He slept before the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, and with no one to look after him. He was harder than grandmother, but it was a nice hardness. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be Mr. MacDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She stirred suddenly and sighed. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream. Oh, said the little girl. My head's on your heart. I can hear it going. What a big heart you have got, father dear. So, what happened eventually? Father took Kezia from her room and brought it over there, and he was sleeping over on the bed, on the same bed, and she was thinking that before she could sleep, her father slept. And she was continuously staring at his father's face, and she was thinking that his father was not too big, also. Why? Because he had never seen him so closely. And moreover to that, he was harder than grandmother. But she liked that hardness also because he was supposed to work for the whole day and would get really very tired. It was not possible for him to become Mr. MacDonald who would play with her. And moreover to that, she was thinking that as she torn up all his beautiful writing and she Stirred means she shook for a certain time duration, and the father asked, "What's the matter? Have you got another dream?" And the little girl said, "No." And she put her head on his father's heart as she could listen to the heartbeats. And she said that although my father would be strict, although he would not have time to play with me, but still my father had got a big heart and he was really dear to her. So, this is all about the chapter. I hope you all understood the chapter. If you still face or still you are having any sort of doubt or queries, you can comment down in the comment section. Thank you for watching and have a nice day, everyone.